Good afternoon. My name is Arnav Chabra, and today I will be discussing the impacts of gender stereotypes on workplace discrimination in South Asia. Throughout history, much of the developed world has recognized the important contributions that women have made to society. And in response to this, they have reformed many unequal policies that discriminate women. However, there are many regions in the world where they have not done this. And this is because there are many pre-existing social beliefs in these regions that have about the gender roles that men and women play within society. This would result in increased discrimination against women in various aspects of those societies. For example, in South Asia, it can impact the government, the healthcare industry, the sports industry, and also the professional workplace. Particularly within the professional workplace, women can be discriminated against in various forms, such as unequal pay and verbal abuse. The significance of this issue is that these gender stereotypes can result in discrimination against women, not only in the workplace, but in other aspects of society, such as government and the sports industry. And this would lead to the overall concern of equal rights for women all around the world, no matter the profession they are in. This leads to the question, to what extent do gender stereotypes within South Asia affect the discrimination within a professional workplace? Well, what is a professional workplace in South Asia? The professional workplace in South Asia can take place in many forms, such as the government, sports industries, and the agricultural sector, which is primarily an important professional workplace for South Asia because those are some of the goods that are primarily exported by those countries. The gender-based discrimination that women experience in South Asia occurs through various social inequalities and gender stereotypes that primarily occur through patriarchal beliefs, discriminatory working conditions, and the opinions that women's work can be perceived as insignificant. To begin with, gender stereotypes have negatively impacted women in South Asia through patriarchy, because women are often forced to conform to gender stereotypical roles, such as being a housewife. When women conform to these roles, their husbands often force them to not seek employment, initiate contact with other men, or even, in some cases, leaving their own household. These negative attitudes show that gender stereotypes within South Asia negatively impact women's ability to perform jobs outside their household. But the reason male figures in South Asian countries suppress the rights of women in terms of seeking employment are out of fear of stigma by the society, which also has similar patriarchal beliefs as they do. This suppression of employment would lead to decreased levels of female labor force participation, as illustrated by this graph, in which we see that in South Asia, only 28.5% of women were participating in the labor force, compared to 57% in North America, and overall, 48.7% around the world. Furthermore, in South Asian societies, there's a long-standing belief that men accomplish more work and they're better at completing tasks in professions than women are. And these pre-existing social beliefs that men accomplish the heavy work negatively impacts women throughout South Asian society. Not only do South Asian societies believe that men accomplish more work or that they're better at accomplishing certain tasks, they also believe that women are somehow not as qualified to accomplish these same certain tasks in these professions. And within these workplaces, this would result in those employers assigning women unchallenging assignments. And when women are assigned unchallenging assignments as compared to men, this would lead to many people perceiving that the work women have accomplished is insignificant. This is also demonstrated in the findings by UNESCO, which is the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, that found that in a survey in Nepal, which among 17 head teachers, that 47% found that the work women are assigned is less challenging than that of male teachers. This shows how that the work women can accomplish could be perceived as insignificant simply just because it is not as challenging as that given to men. Eventually, patriarchy and the perception of women's work being insignificant can result in discriminatory working conditions. And these discriminatory working conditions can take place in many forms, such as unequal pay and verbal abuse. And such is shown by the stimulus provided in College Board that women earn 77 cents for every dollar that men earn. And this occurs around the globe on average when women work equally as men do. However, in South Asia, women are often forced to work longer hours and they are paid less. As shown on this image, while the global average is 77 cents for every dollar, women in South Asia can earn ranging from 35% to 14% of pay that men do. This would negatively impact women in South Asia because they are not only expected to conform to their socially accepted roles, such as being a housewife, but they're also told to work longer hours despite not being equally compensated for it. A solution to this issue would be for South Asian governments to pass anti-discriminatory laws that addresses the discrimination women experience. And in the International Labor Organization's Gender Protection Program, they found that the Labor Act that passed by Nepal was ineffective at stopping discrimination that were experienced against women, and it was largely rejected due to the deep culture in South Asia, such as patriarchy. And these are some of the limitations to this solution. And these limitations are further conveyed by the European Journal of Social Sciences, in which it found that policy itself can't produce positive results, and it requires effective implementation, and that if there's ineffective implementation of these policies, then it could lead to increased levels of gender-based problems rather than to prevent the gender-based problems that they were enacted to prevent. And here are a list of my sources. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Yeah, my first question, how valid and reliable were the sources that you used, and how do you know?
So the sources I've used throughout my presentation are very, what I consider to be valid and reliable, primarily because they are peer-reviewed academic journals that range from research that was conducted in various South Asian countries. As I explained in one of my sources, there was a study conducted in Nepal in which there was a survey that was to gauge the perception of how the work of women is perceived as insignificant. That is very credible because it is a survey from people within South Asia.
And if you had more time, what additional research would you conduct?
If I had more time, some additional research that I would conduct would be to look at the impacts of how look at the impacts of how women in South Asian countries can go against these patriarchal beliefs and how that would have an impact on the labor force participation. And that would be a potential solution I would have to this issue.